What if everything you thought you knew about someone's past was a carefully constructed facade? This video isn't just about an ex-husband's truck. It's about uncovering a hidden history that will make you rethink assumptions and reveal how easily a simple detail can mask a much larger untold story. Get ready to have your mind blown. For years, I've kept quiet about what was really happening behind closed doors, about the life I was living when nobody was looking. I held on to this secret so tightly, mostly out of fear. But silence gets heavy, and I'm ready to finally set it down. This is the video I never thought I'd make, the one I was always too scared to film. But it's time to tell you my side of the story. The real story. And it has almost nothing to do with a truck. The story everyone knows is pretty simple. We had a huge fight about money that just spiraled out of control. In a fit of rage, I supposedly took my anger out on his prized possession, that big, shiny truck. It was presented as this moment of mutual craziness, a crazy wife and an enraged husband. It was a simple story that made for great drama, and honestly, it gave people an easy way to write us off. They were both toxic, everyone said, and in a way, that was the goal. The lie made it look like a two-way street. It made it seem fair. But our story didn't start there. It started out beautifully. When I met him, he was everything I thought I wanted. He was charming, driven, and had this incredible way of making you feel like you were the only person on earth. That first year felt like a movie. He showered me with attention, with gifts, and with promises of a future that seemed too good to be true. And maybe that was the first red flag right there. It was too good to be true. He presented himself as this pillar of strength, a man of traditional values. He was always talking about loyalty, family, and building a secure, protected life together. I didn't see it as control back then. I saw it as commitment. When he suggested I quit my job a few months after we got married to focus on our home, I thought it was romantic. He said he wanted to take care of me so I wouldn't have to worry about a thing. I was in love, and I trusted him completely. So I agreed. And just like that, without me even realizing it, a cage was being built around me. It was a beautiful cage, but it was a cage. The change was so subtle at first. It started with my friends. I'd make plans to go out with them, and he'd sigh and say, "Oh, I thought we were going to have a night in. I just miss you when you're gone." He always framed it as love, as just wanting to spend time with me. But if I went anyway, the air would be ice cold when I got home. The next day, he'd be distant and hurt. He was a master of making you feel guilty without ever raising his voice. So, little by little, I started seeing my friends less. It was just easier. Then it started with my family. He'd find tiny faults with all of them. My sister was a little too loud. My brother was disrespectful for making a joke. My parents were meddling when they called to see how I was. Every comment was like a little seed of doubt, planted to slowly cut me off from my support system. He'd say things like, "They just don't get our kind of love," or, "It's us against the world, baby." He was painting this picture of a great romance, just the two of us in our own little bubble. But a bubble isn't for protection. It's for isolation. Have you ever felt like you're losing your mind? Like you know you had a conversation, but the other person swears on their life it never happened? That was my daily reality. He would make a promise and then completely deny it. He'd twist my words around until I was the one who sounded crazy. He'd say something incredibly hurtful, and then, later, tell me I was being too sensitive, or that I imagined it. It's called gaslighting. It's a kind of psychological abuse that is so sneaky, you actually start to doubt your own sanity. I started keeping a journal, not to write down memories, but just to prove to myself that I wasn't making things up. It was my only anchor to reality. He also used faith to control me. He would twist scripture to justify his role as the head of our home, to tell me that a good wife was a submissive and quiet wife. If my opinions were different from his, they were rebellious or ungodly. He built a world where he was the righteous leader, and I was his flawed follower, needing his guidance on everything. My own faith, which used to be my strength, became just another tool he used to keep me in line. He pulled me away from my old church friends and found a new community that echoed his views, a place where I was just seen as an extension of him. The financial control that began with me quitting my job eventually became absolute. I didn't have my own credit card. He gave me a cash allowance for groceries and things for the house. An allowance, like I was a child. If I ever needed more, I had to ask for it and explain exactly why I needed it. It was humiliating. I was a capable adult woman, and I had to ask my husband for $20 to buy a book. He called it budgeting and financial discipline. But he was a successful man. I knew we weren't struggling. It was never about money. It was about power. By controlling every dollar, he controlled my freedom. I couldn't leave him. I couldn't even buy a bus ticket without him finding out. And this brings me to the real secret, the reason our marriage actually fell apart. It wasn't a fight over our budget. It was about what he was doing with our money. For about a year before the truck incident, I started noticing strange things. Large withdrawals from our savings account. Vague business trips that didn't quite make sense. He got more and more secretive with his phone, always keeping it locked and face down on the table. Whenever I asked, his eyes would get cold and hard, and he'd tell me not to worry my pretty little head about it, that it was man's work. The truth, which I stumbled on completely by accident, was that he was living a double life. And it wasn't another woman, which in some messed up way I think I could have processed. This was worse. He was tangled up in a high-stakes illegal gambling ring. The man who lectured me for spending $20 on a book was losing thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, in a single night. Oh, our savings, that future he promised he would always protect, was being poured into this dark, dangerous world. The business trips were gambling trips. The late nights were spent in back rooms, not boardrooms. My pillar of strength was a fraud. He wasn't a provider, he was a gambler who was drowning, and he was ready to pull me down with him. The night of the truck incident, I confronted him. I'd found a ledger he carelessly left in his office. It laid out months and months of losses. The numbers were breathtaking. It was everything we had and more. When I showed it to him, the charming mask didn't just slip, it shattered. For the first time, I didn't just see anger in his eyes. I saw pure, terrifying rage. We weren't arguing about groceries. We were arguing because I had discovered the lie his entire identity was built on. He didn't yell, though. He was horrifyingly calm. He told me I was hysterical and had no idea what I was talking about. He backed me into a corner in our kitchen, his voice low and threatening, and told me that I would never tell a soul about this. He said he would ruin me. He'd tell everyone I was crazy, that he'd been trying to manage my instability for years. He would use the fact that I'd become isolated against me as proof that no one, not even my own family, could stand to be around me. It was the most terrified I have ever been in my life. I knew in that second I had to get out. I just ran. I grabbed my keys and sprinted out of the house with no plan. I just had to escape. He ran after me. I jumped in my car, but I was panicking so badly I couldn't get it to start. He got into his truck, which was parked right behind me, blocking me in. Then he got out, stood in front of my car, and just smiled this cold, chilling smile. I was trapped, so I did the only thing I could think to do. I put my car in reverse, and I slammed into his truck. It wasn't an act of rage. It was an act of desperation. It was a cry for help. I needed to make a scene. I needed witnesses. I needed the illusion of our perfect life to be so publicly shattered that he couldn't just sweep me, and this under the rug. Hitting that truck was the only way I could get out of that driveway. The police came, neighbors came out of their houses, and all of a sudden, there were eyes on us. And for the first time that night, I felt safe. In the chaos that followed, he went into survival mode. He instantly became the calm, reasonable husband dealing with his emotional, unstable wife. He talked to the cops. He talked to our families. And he spun the story. The story about a simple fight over money. It was sickeningly brilliant. It made us both look flawed, like we were equally to blame. In my state of shock and fear, he even convinced me that it was the best way to handle it. He said it would protect us from public judgment and let us deal with it privately. He said if I told the truth about his gambling, it would destroy his life. He used my fear and my exhaustion to make me a part of my own silencing. So, I went along with it. I just nodded as he told his version of the story to everyone. I stayed quiet when friends whispered about how crazy I must have been. I let the lie become the official story because I was terrified of what he'd do if I didn't. The public drama about the truck became the perfect cover for the private terror I was living. He walked away looking like a victim too, just another guy with a crazy ex-wife. He got to keep his reputation. I was left with the label, the shame, and the silence. It has taken me years to undo that damage. Years of therapy, years of slowly reconnecting with the friends and family he forced me to push away. Years of learning how to trust my own mind again. For the longest time I was ashamed. Ashamed that I let it happen, that I stayed so long, that I helped him lie. But I'm not ashamed anymore. I was a victim of something called coercive control, a type of abuse that's designed to be invisible. So why tell this story now? It's not for revenge. It's not about trying to expose him. His choices have their own consequences, and he has to live with them. I'm telling this story for me, to take my own story back. I refuse to be remembered as the crazy wife who smashed up a truck. I am a woman who survived a deeply manipulative and abusive marriage. I am a woman who found a way out. And I am a woman who is finally healing. I'm also telling this for anyone else out there who might be living in that same kind of silence. For anyone being told you're crazy or too sensitive, or that you're just imagining things. For anyone being cut off from the people you love in the name of love. What you're feeling is real. Your reality is valid. And what you're going through is not your fault. The very first step out is just admitting the truth to yourself. And that alone is a massive act of courage. This was incredibly hard to share, so thank you for listening to my story. The weight of this secret is something I've carried by myself for so long, and even just saying it out loud feels like a release. If any part of this resonated with you, if you've ever felt silenced or had your own reality questioned, please know that you are not alone. If you feel comfortable, I'd be honored if you shared a simple, "I hear you" in the comments. Let's create a space where we can validate each other. And please, if you are in a situation that feels unsafe, your safety is the #1 priority. There are people and resources that can and will help you. For years, I thought our marriage was defined by that one ugly public moment. But I see now that my story isn't about the truck. It's about everything that happened beyond it. It's about the silent struggle, the hidden truth, and the strength it takes to finally speak it. Thank you for listening.